I've taken myself off the coffee and it's killing me.
Uh-huh.
I know I have a little bit of adrenal fatigue and sensitivity to it and stuff like that. So I found this alternative, which is great. I know I have a little bit of adrenal fatigue. I found this alternative, which, I mean, it kind of gets the job done. It's called Ticino, like
Yeah.
but with tea, but it's just not coffee. It's
No, it's not. Oh man, I drink about a pot of espresso a day. That's how I make my coffee. Is
I
like,
love coffee. I love bulletproof coffee. I'm like, I'm about to cave.
okay, hold on 1 second.
Yeah. No, I slept a lot today. I had to take my mom to the airport at like 3:30 or 4, and I couldn't. I tried to make myself sleep before then, and I just couldn't. And then I came home and I couldn't fall asleep until like 7 a.m.
Can you see my bulletproof coffee?
I hate you.
It's always, it glistens. There's like little rainbows from the butter, all sparkly.
I was just gonna ask you, do you use butter or coconut oil?
Well, normally I used to do butter and medium chain triglyceride oil. But right now I'm just doing, this is just butter and coffee because I don't have any MCTs currently.
I like the flavor of the butter, but the one time I did do the butter, it like tore my stomach up, which I'm not. I mean, I eat dairy. It's not like I'm like super lactose intolerant or whatever. So ever since then, I just stick to the coconut oil.
Well, that's great. MCTs are really good for your metabolism. They burn faster.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, so hello, everybody. If you don't have an amazing cup of bulletproof coffee, you should go make yourself one right now.
Or, you know, just continue on our conversation from yesterday and have a bowl of ice cream.
Oh, yeah, I did do that last night after our talk.
No, I'm jealous.
Oh, man. Okay, so where do you want to start today? Man, there's so many goodies to talk about with the inner circle and you and I and who the hell we are and why the hell we do what we do.
I was really picking up on that sense today and yesterday that there is a bit of a lingering question on like, okay, what exactly do they do anyways? Who exactly are they? Just in our community. What does that have to do with the inner circle? So, I don't know about you, but I just kind of felt called to share a little bit more about kind of what brought us where we are, what do we mean when we talk about our magic or what we channel or what our gifts are, how we manifest, like what does all of that mean? How did we get to that point? That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, cool. Let's do it. So I know on my end, it's been 1,000 lifetimes in 33 years. So I would love for you to start with your journey and what feels really alive and what you feel really connected to right now, and we'll just flow.
Yeah, totally. I didn't really ground in who I am on that level until very recently, within the past 1.5 to 2 years, did I really finally step into my galactic being, my magical being, understanding my energy in that way, believing in myself in that way. I grew up with a lot of religious programming. I went through some trauma at a very young age, so I do kind of have that stereotypical storyline of like, well, I turned my gifts off at a very young age, and but I was always I always knew I was different. I always knew I stood out. I always felt very disconnected from the real world, so to speak. And I always was very attracted to and curious about the occult, magic, witchcraft, energy, auras, angels, all of that good stuff. But it was very hush hush. And I just grew up with my mom, but it was still very hush hush with her. Like, no, that's evil. You don't talk about those things. And I mean, I remember an instance when I could see certain things in probably around 8th grade, because I had some friends at the time where we were able to share things like that with each other. So it helped me open up a little bit to that. And I remember telling her one day, I'm like, Mom, you know, I've been trying to figure out what it is what this is, and I see auras. And she's like, oh, well, don't tell anybody.
Oh man.
You know,
Yeah.
so I grew up with all of that, and of course I went through, and I mean, God, I don't want to get into all of it, but I went through the gamut of things, of abuse, of chasing after men, getting myself in bad situations, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, just escapism in all of the ways. Self-harm, you know, all of it. I literally, it's like I went through all of it. I had this insane need inside of me to escape and to self-harm, and I never really knew why. But it's like my intuition led me to do those things in a really weird way. Like, I can remember watching the movie 13 with my friends, knowing, or maybe not that movie, but just knowing that at a certain age, I was going to do some of those things. And it wasn't that like, ooh, that looks cool or whatever. It was just like, I know I need to experience this weird process. Like, I could see it all from a very young age. Really weird. So anyways, around 21, 22, I'd say I started going through my dark night of the soul and went through a really serious depression. And it was actually triggered by my current partner, who was my partner then at the time. And he kind of just had this breaking point with me that's like, I can't be with you if you're gonna be basically like blacking out all the time and going batshit crazy, essentially, because I just didn't know how to deal with any of my internal stuff at the time. So went through all of that, and then about, I'd say 3 years ago is when I really started tuning into learning my psychic gifts, learning about energy, learning about spirituality, just like really opening up to all of that. And still, I think, and I mentioned this yesterday, just still really deeply driven by this desire to know who I really am and feel that connection. Because I was always great at morphing myself. I could always morph myself into whoever I needed to be, however I needed to fit in with this adventure or this group of people, or how did I need to create myself to get this certain thing. So I had that aspect to me, but which is interesting, because in a way that's like what we speak to now, of embracing all these aspects of yourself. But instead of it being from a space of me embracing all these aspects of myself, it was me just trying to pretend to be someone else, because I had no core connection at all. It just was completely zilch, nothing. And so, yeah. And so I was in the sex industry for a little while. That also really, really triggered it. And a lot of this now, as a part of my awakening, I came to understand where obviously it was connected to, all the things, you know, the ancestral lineage, thousands and thousands and thousands of lifetimes where I've done the exact same thing, creating karma for myself because I felt guilty of the timelines when I was a witch, or just, you know, all of those things that we speak a lot on, how you don't necessarily have to go and find out. However, for me at the time, it was necessary for me. I wanted to. I really needed that, because I needed that sense of connection to all parts of myself, past, present, and future.
Yeah.
So where I am now and what I do now is first and foremost, I, like most of us, I'm a channel. I'm a multidimensional channeler. I'm began to really understand that by connecting with my Arcturian self. And for those of you watching who don't understand any of this, watch our video yesterday where we speak about semantics, because really at the end of the day, whether you believe in this or not, it's just semantics of language speaking about different parts of energy. But I connected to I did a lot of soul clearing. I did a soul rebirthing. I literally allowed myself to embody my Arcturian energy, and that opened up everything for me, which it was so, at the time, was so far out there for me. I mean, I can't really say I'm a 90s baby, so I grew up in 90s, 2000s. So, of course, we had a little bit of that time period where we were really into, like, aliens and the peace signs and stuff like that. But it never was something I was really, really that interested in. I mean, I see people have these stories of, like, oh, these blue beings used to come sleep with me at night, or I used to, like, get visitations by these ships and stuff. I'm like, I didn't have any of that. I could cared less about aliens and space and stars and any of that. It just was not. I was a little Barbie girl, like typical, just what you probably would expect I was like growing up. So for me to, like, step into this world of, oh, you're an Arcturian and you're a gatekeeper and you have all these different connections to these planets and these stars, and then all of a sudden these different sounds are coming out of me and I'm getting downloaded with DNA healings and DNA activations and planets I've never even heard of, just all of this stuff. It's just like I opened up the floodgates. I opened up Pandora's box, basically, which is part of what I love about the work that I do, is I love opening you up to all that new stuff so you can see and realize how much is out there beyond the physical world. I mean, as much as I want you to expand physically in your career and your finances and your relationships, because we are human. After all, that is a big part of my story, is just feeling totally disconnected from my humanness or being a human or my body for most of my life. I want you to enjoy that, but I really get so turned on when I just take people through these activations and it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, you're connected to X, Y, and Z, and you have all of these powerful gifts, and so now let's use them. It's just so like exciting to me, because that was the most freeing thing I had experienced in that way, was to just get turned on to all of that. So that's a little, tried to keep it short, but not really, a little bit of who I am and where I got to where I am today. So I definitely don't, a lot of the things I do and the techniques that come through me, they just kind of spread the whole gamut of things. I mean, I do carry that galactic energy. I do channel those different entities and beings. But there's almost like this shamanic energy that flows through me as well. And that's what I like to call my magic. Even if you read some of my channelings in my free ebook from earlier this year, some of them come through in this very rhymey, sing-songy way, because they're connected to spells. They're connected to ancient spell work, but just with a galactic twist to them. So, I just kind of, my craft essentially is just like the blending of all of that and the blending of those two worlds and staying open to the potential for so much more to come through, which is part of why I'm so passionate about the inner circle and the work that you and I are doing together with these beautiful women, is because when you really get rid of the energy blocks in your humanness, when you really just remove that and allow yourself to move freely with how you create and how you expand, then all of this stuff that we're ready to bring down and ground into earth, all of these new ideas, these new technologies, these new visions, these new ways of being, that's how those can come through. But we've got to clear up your energy and teach you how to be empowered and in love with grounding yourself in that state of being, of just being a powerful channel of instantly creating, instantly manifesting, having what you want, doing it the way you want, not having anything get in the way, and being comfortable with that. Because as much as I can bring all that through for you, it doesn't mean shit if we can't ground it in here on earth.
Yeah. That's my favorite part. It's my Taurus-y nature. Ground it into the physical, make it real. I want to see
earth signs, so
oh yeah. You see it manifest. I think it's really beautiful that you mentioned your intuition leading you into some of the more challenging situations, because although we know that everything is a choice, there were certain awarenesses that you wanted to unlock in those spaces, and your soul needed to go through that depth of experience in order to unlock those. And so I think that, I don't know, it just feels like this really brave, courageous thing to do. And I think that a lot of people do that and they're hard on themselves because they don't know why they're in the challenging situation. So it's really easy to turn in on ourselves and think, you know, how did I mess this up? Or what did I do wrong? But really there's beneath that, there's a deeper desire for growth within the context of those situations. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, 100%. I love that a lot of what you speak to as well is embracing that shadow energy or that dark energy. I was just thinking about this earlier today about my natural way of creating, and when things really shift powerfully for me, and they do, typically when I'm in my dark goddess energy, when I like, and this isn't necessarily the like me going out there to stir the pot, but it's me taking those darker risks or diving into those experiences that typically would be seen as bad or not the right way, or there's an easier way, or blah, 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 blah. And yeah, sure, that's true, but there's a part of me that really values the growth or the thrill or just all of it in some of those experiences. And I was kind of just looking back to my past 2 years, and my life has shifted exponentially this year, where it could have the year before if I wasn't in such resistance of that destructive, dark energy that I was needing to create from. And that's one of my biggest learning lessons for myself, for everybody, is just embrace that part of yourself. Don't be afraid of it. Don't let others around you judge you for going through that. Don't let yourself impede that part of your energy, because that's what keeps the energy, the momentum going. That's what makes things go a lot faster. If you just get over yourself, let the energy go where it needs to go through that dark shit, destroy some shit, it's okay. So then you can create new. It's okay. You can't just keep creating new on top of new on top of new on top of new. That's playing it safe.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful to acknowledge the cycles of destruction and rebirth, and how it's natural throughout all systems of life. And it's a cycle that will continuously perpetuate itself in order that there be newness. And I think that it's so easy to get really enveloped in the growth aspect of things, which is really beautiful. But in order for new growth to take place, sometimes that transition has to happen, that decomposition, the alchemy has to happen. Yeah.
What about you? I wish you wonder you.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, there's so many different energies. So I'm feeling into my storyline. And I'm thinking about all the different energies that I have, the different lives that I have lived in this lifetime. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm sure there's plenty that I will not include because we would be here for a very, very long time. But I'll try to hit the key points. When I was really young, well, I remember being, when I was first born, I remember being a very happy child. My mom said you used to sit there and you just be so happy to watch everybody else playing and everybody else being happy. She's like, you never cried, you never gave me a hard time. And I think I came in remembering my connection, knowing where I was from, who I was, what I was. And around the age of 5 was the first time that I saw violence in my home. And it really traumatized me because I didn't understand. I didn't understand what it was that I was feeling and what it was that I was seeing. And it created this aversion in me towards, well, particularly towards my father, but towards people in general. There was a fear that was born in me around that. And so I grew up in a very volatile home, fighting all the time, physical, mental, emotional abuse from the age of around 8 is when the physical abuse started happening, all the way up until I graduated. I mean, I think the last physical altercation that I had with my father, I was 25, and it was not good. There were, it was not good. And so there was always a feeling of being out of control of my body, of my space, of my freedom. I felt trapped in so many ways. There was really nowhere for me to go to seek peace or to seek comfort. And I remember when I was in high school, I had a couple of really good friends, and we would, they would come pick me up and we would just go drive for hours, or their families would have me come stay with them for like a week or two at a time, just to get me out of that environment. And so it was always volatile until I left the house. And actually, as a result of that, and this is something that not very many people know about me at all, but my senior year of high school, I put on 100 pounds because I was so, I was unable to assimilate and process my environment at that point, and it had built up and built up and built up, and I didn't have a means for expressing my emotions. And that was also the result of my parents putting me on anxiety and depression medication, because they always thought something was wrong with me, because I was very opposed to what was happening in our home, and I was not afraid to voice that or to express that, even to my own detriment, which is not a great idea, but that was just the space that I was in when I was growing up. And so we went to many different psychologists and psychiatrists, and actually for quite a few trips to different psychologists, they were trying to open my parents up to my perspective, and I don't think that they liked that very much. So they ended up taking me to a psychiatrist who could prescribe me medicine at that point. So I knew throughout the duration of that I was tapped in. I was tapped in, and I knew I was tapped in, and I knew that I was tapped into truth, and I knew that I was supposed to be communicating that. I didn't know how to do it effectively at that point. And then that was also very entangled with my emotions towards the situation itself, wanting to defend and protect myself, not feeling like I had that from the people who I thought were supposed to be providing that for me. But I always knew that I was tapped in, and I knew that from a very young age. I felt connected to my soul, and I felt connected to a more expanded power source. And I was raised Catholic in all of this. And so it was one of those things where it's like, if you don't go to church on Sunday, then you get punished. So we had to go, and we had to go through the whole thing. I didn't really have much of an option with that. So that was kind of like the family environment. And then when I left home and I went to college, within the first year of college, I lost all that weight. Just having that stress released, not having to process and assimilate so much of that from my environment anymore. And then I got into personal fitness training and nutrition and became a personal trainer and nutritionist for a while. While I was going to school for business and psychology, and then I came off all my meds I didn't want to take them. So I stopped taking them. A huge shift in my mental clarity, emotional well-being, physical health, all of that. And I started to take more of what I'll call it a purist route. So whatever I was doing, I tried to stay as close to the earth as possible, the most natural, organic form of everything possible. And for a little while there too, like in my early 20s, I got, so in my relationship with my father was reflected in my romantic partnership. So the first partnership that I was in was very abusive, and he actually ended up dying in a really quite horrific motorcycle accident. And that happened when I was in my early 20s. But that pattern carried on, particularly through relationships. I was picking up in all the other areas of my life, but I couldn't seem to break that pattern with choosing abusive partners. And I had to do very, very, very deep work to release myself from that and break free and find self-love and find self-confidence and find my power. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned through all of those cycles was because I was so good at giving everybody else love. That was my gift. I knew how to give everybody else love. I knew how to be there and show up and be loyal to everybody else except for me. And that was one of the hardest lessons, but the most profound lessons that I have and still am learning in my life, and why I'm so adamant about helping people to return within, to their truth, to their knowing, to their gifts, to their intuition, to their power, to their source, and not allow all these other people, places, situations, circumstances to dictate their experience, to not give their power away to those things, particularly if it's the only patterning you've seen, if it's what you're used to, what you're accustomed to, knowing that there's a different way, and that and I had to embrace my darkness to release myself from those situations, because in some of the abusive relationships I was in, I got caught up in drugs. I had to go to rehab. And so that was very difficult for me to let go of too. I tended to self-inflict pain. That's how that showed up for me. It was all self-inflicted. And I couldn't bring myself to stand up for myself, because I couldn't bring myself to conscientiously harm another person. But it was so easy for me to do that to me. So that was kind of like my karmic loop that I had to break, was to stop self-destructing and to stop choosing things that were destructive for me. And man, there's so many layers. And I often describe this as swimming upstream in a swamp is what it felt like. It was like, is there an end to this density? Is there an end to this pain? It was so difficult for me. And in my 20s and 30s, so I had an awakening at 25. I hit my bottom, and I had a profound awakening, and I started to study. The first thing I studied was the Bible, because that was the most natural thing for me to go to because of my upbringing. So for about a year, I fasted, I prayed, I read the Bible, I studied it deeply, and I wanted to get as much epiphany, insight, revelation from it as I could. And then I remember getting to a point, my guidance was, okay, you're done with this now. We want to move you over here to this. And so I started studying different religions, traditions, philosophies, and exploring them as well. Most of them would kind of come into my path at the appropriate time. And then I would delve into them and check them against my truth, and really relate everything back to my experience. And a lot of what I was learning and studying, and even through my travels, because after I had my awakening, I gave away all my stuff and started traveling the country. And so I've been to pretty much every single state in the US, Canada, Mexico, Hawaii, all of this. And when I would read these things, a lot of it served as affirmation and confirmation. And I would go, oh, wow, there's other people who are experiencing this. I'm not the only one. And what I've always been really intrigued by is energy and metaphysics. And even in my core connection to source, I prayed, because there were situations where the only thing that I had for my own survival was prayer and trust and faith, to see me through. And so I knew that prayer was powerful, and I knew that it was working. I knew something magical was occurring in my life where I could ask this invisible entity for what it is that I wanted and needed, because I didn't know who or what else to ask, or even how to provide that for myself at the time. And things would show up, solutions would come. I would be removed quickly from harmful situations and environments, where I could have easily, I'm lucky that I'm alive, and I'm just going to leave it at that. There's many times in my life where I could have died. And I feel like I've always had some type of powerful ancestry or guardianship surrounding me in my life. And I've always felt really connected to that and to that magic. And so I got really curious about, what is prayer? What is making that happen? What is making me putting out a request or a desire, and then that thing showing up in my world? Sometimes it happens, and sometimes it happens in the way that I want it to, and sometimes it happens not quite in the way that I want it to. What is that interaction? What is that communication? What is causing the non-physical energy to translate into physical energy? And so through my travels, and through more wholesome connections, and even a couple more challenging ones, I had profound integrations and awakenings in awareness to self. And spirit medicine would find me as well, and I would journey, and I would explore different dimensions of consciousness in order to expand my awareness. And I've had all these very profound mystical experiences where I got to viscerally feel what was happening in the energy, how that translation occurs, how we create, how we are the creator. And I'm very passionate about doing powerful activations to help calibrate people to their knowing of who and what they are, so that they can create, so that they can tap into that knowing for themselves at a deep, deep cellular level, so that then they know how to go out and create and use their magic and their potential to translate non-physical energy into physical energy. And I also have an incredible awareness of what it takes to break free from the patterns and the addictions that can hold us back, really, from stepping fully into self-love, from stepping into that full integration of self, and to really open and expand the awareness to see all of who and what we actually are, and how much more there is for us to experience and explore and discover and create, and how ultimately this is an ongoing process that never ends. We are infinite, eternal beings, and really we are here to choose and decide and have fun, and to have fun in our creation, and to not judge our creation, but to love it unconditionally, and to recognize that we are from the very void of creation, the very beginning of awakened awareness, when all energy was connected and only knew itself as connected, to the individuation of itself for the purpose of self-discovery and self-awareness and self-knowledge and creation, to the full-on, full-blown self-actualization in the light of interconnected consciousness, where we are all fully awakened and illumined, all knowing, all seeing, all present, in absolute pure bliss and unconditional love. That all of that is just a journey, and we get to select which place we want to occupy and inhabit and explore at any time in our experience, and it never ends, even in between our physical lives. We can choose to, and not everybody will choose to go to the light, but we can choose to go to the light and to feel that. And even within the context of that, we will decide, and all of us have decided, because we're here having and sharing this experience now, to have different experiences. So it's about creation for me. And how can I help people to integrate to the full embodied awareness of who and what they are so that they can step fully into their power as creators and create the exact life they desire through magical means, because it's so much fun to play with that. And until we recognize who and what we actually are, our creations will always be limited. There will always be some kind of a limitation that exists there because we're not fully self-aware and fully embodied in that knowing that we are the I am, that I am, that I am, and that we need to expand our vision, our awareness to encompass all of that. And so I'm really passionate about helping people to awaken and expand into that space and to create in whichever way feels most true and aligned to them. I'm really big on freedom and freedom of choice and freedom of experience and non-judgment of desire and what it is that people wish to call forth and experience. Because like you mentioned so beautifully earlier, your intuition led you into those darker situations. And I feel deeply the same, because you had a deeper desire to know thyself. And you knew that you could gain that awareness through those challenging experiences that would drive you back in. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's purpose to all of it. And I don't negate any aspect of creation or experience. I think it's all valid and it's all valuable and it's all purposeful and meaningful and beautiful in its own right.
I agree with you. And the beautiful thing is now having that awareness and still allowing yourself to go to those places and spaces when necessary, but from a conscious standpoint rather than an unconscious belief system, because part of it is intuition. I mean, I think although we do have blueprinting, belief systems, programming, whatever you want to call it, inside of us, I do believe that the intuition, in a way, trumps all of that. Mm-hmm. So that even if I am making an unconscious decision based on that sort of programming and my intuition is leading me that way, my intuition is just leading me that way to help me break free out of that at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what they're saying too is, will you listen? I think in those situations, we know that we're intuitively guided into them and we recognize it on some level. And then there's also a level of, okay, but why would my intuition guide me to this place? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a powerful thing to become aware of, because on my path, I realized it's because I so deeply desired integration. And the most powerful integration that we will ever experience is the integration of the shadow. And that just means recognizing that it is just as much a part of who and what we are as the light is, and not discounting any part of ourselves or our wholeness or our experience. And we will constantly be guided into situations that reflect our unconscious back to us until we illuminate it, become aware of it, and integrate it. So that doesn't mean that we still won't face challenging situations in our life, but like you're saying, we'll be conscious of them. We'll be aware. It can feel so disorienting sometimes, because we're not fully aware of our unconscious, so we don't see why it's manifesting. And that's why we need to have the physical representation to show us what those parts are, so that we can have a physical representation of what it is that we're not yet seeing within ourselves. But when you see it, and then you see it, it's not a big shocker anymore. It's not a big surprise. You just, life would get really boring if you were sitting on top of the hill meditating all the time. Or even if you were in that state surrounding others all the time, which I have yet to meet a single human being, even the most enlightened, awakened beings on this planet, I can still sense and feel and read in their energy field where they have some resistance to humanity because of the overall negativity that one can experience, or the unconsciousness that one can experience is engaging in the human experience. that's not part of this experience. I don't believe. I don't know anybody who doesn't ever still experience aspects of their own shadow or their unconscious or their darkness. Yet it's fascinating to me that that seems to be a place of a thing that we're striving for. And I often chuckle to myself, just like that, when I witness that occurring, because I think that there's so much freedom when you just embrace what's real and what's raw, and that darkness is part of the experience. And that's where the liberation is. The liberation isn't landing in the utopia. You're going to have plenty of that when you transition, and you'll still catch glimpses of it, but and you may even be able to ground that into a really high extent in this experience, and that's beautiful. But what if the freedom and what if the liberation is in just embracing all of it and getting just really into the raw beauty of the whole human experience?
Yep, I totally agree with you. I mean, that kept me pushing awakening and spirituality and things like that away for so long, was because I, at the end of the day, was still very turned off by this sense of enlightenment that was so just white. I mean, that's what I thought of. It's just white, or like sitting on top of a mountain meditating. And it was like, you know, that part of me, it's like, well, that means I have to give up all of my fun. That means I have to give up those parts that make me
whole,
human and whole, that I still enjoy. So yeah, so and to kind of tie that into the inner circle a bit, I feel that is why something like that can prove to be so valuable and important at this time, because as we are seeing such a collective rise of releasing more in consciousness, really integrating all parts of the whole, really expanding from that state, not leaving parts of ourselves left behind. When you come into a space like that, we're using each other's as mirrors in that safe, committed, grounded, sound space, rather than you continually having to figure out for yourself what these parts of yourself are by being shown mirrors unexpectedly, and then, you know, having to I don't want to say react, but in the end it is a reaction when all of a sudden you're shown a mirror of your unconsciousness, and then you have to kind of delegate within yourself, well, how do I handle this? What's going on inside? But so you come into this space, it's like a circle of trust, of where we allow ourselves to be bold and raw and blatant and blunt and beautiful and all of our shapes, sizes, and colors, unconscious and not, and have that trust with one another, where we allow ourselves to reveal what's really going on and show each other what you may not be seeing going on inside of yourself or outside of yourself, and being able to trust in that connection, because it's not like we're going to just let anybody do that to ourselves at the end of the day. I'm not going to just let Joe Schmo come up to me and say, I think you're operating a little unconsciously. Do you know what's going on here today? No, I don't. Go away. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even think that, well, there's a few things that are coming through, but the first one is I really want to clarify the energy around enlightenment and to give it some context, because it's simply the illumination of your unconscious. So you're making your unconscious conscious. You're bringing it into the light. So it's your blind spots, basically. You're just illuminating your blind spots. And then the key is to just, all of those darker, more taboo sides of you, just make them conscious. And then if you want to still create from that place, you're doing it consciously, not unconsciously. So your reality doesn't freak you out. when you get the reflection, because you will get the reflection of whatever it is you're creating from. And then I feel like at that stage in the game, you're a lot more prepared to handle all of it because you have been able to be with all of you, all of those aspects of you. So one thing I'm really big into is helping people to learn how to celebrate all aspects of themselves. And so for me, when I see somebody who has like a blockage in a certain place or some resistance, it just shows me, no, it's not like it's something they're doing wrong or something they need to get rid of. It's somewhere they need to embrace themselves. Right. And so that's where I go now. It's just about radical self-love, right. Unapologetic, shameless self-love at every single level. And so for me, it's about illuminating where that still has space for growth and evolution and guiding them into that radical embrace. Right. And then those illuminations will occur inside of them naturally and automatically. But I'm okay, I'm just going to go straight for the gold here. I am so obsessed with abundance and helping people to create abundance. And I was talking to Kedrick about this last night, so I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. But the underlying desire around that is self-love, because creating abundance and creating money and wealth is directly tied into how well we believe in ourselves and love ourselves and are able to stay in our power with whatever it is that's coming forth from us, and how well we're able to express that in the world and give that gift of who and what we are to other people. And that's what true abundance is anyways, right? When you fully line up with yourself, all that resistance goes away. The resistance is resistance to self. That's all it is, ever. That's where all your resistance is. It's resistance to self. I need to be a different way. I need to express a different way. I need to shift and align with this person's idea of what spirituality is, which creates resistance and tension in your field. I need to be somewhere other than where I am right now. All of this. So when you release the resistance towards yourself, and you keep doing that, you keep lining up with yourself beyond judgment, beyond conditionality, you start to unlock so much free energy, abundance. And then you can use your point of focus, and this is stuff we'll get into in the inner circle, exactly how to translate that non-physical abundant source energy into tangible physical form for anything that it is that you want to create in any area of your life. And you can do that over and over and over again. And you never have to question it again. You never have to wonder, what the hell am I doing? Which step am I on? How do I need to shift and align my energy today? Because that was a huge thing that drove me to explore more and to explore deeper on my spiritual journey, was that I was getting pieces of the puzzle here and there. And a lot of it was just so imprecise, is what I'm going to say. Imprecise, and there was no organization to the translation that was occurring. And so I had to really master and figure that out for myself. How is that translation occurring? And that's what we take you guys through in the inner circle. How does that translation from non-physical potential, the void, translate into light, physical, tangible form in your life, and in whatever it is that you want to create, whether you want to create a lover or more money or connected community, whatever it is that you want to create, a cup of coffee, a beautiful totem from your amazing friend. It doesn't really matter, but it's like, what's true for you? What do you actually want to experience in your life right now? And then not having to question that or wonder about that or spend the next 5-10 years of your life trying to collect the pieces to that puzzle. I mean, that's I think the gift of sharing our stories is that we've done that. You know, I've spent 20 plus years collecting the pieces to that puzzle. And that was something my soul was hell bent on efficiency. Even when I was going through my life cycles of transformation, I would go, or this whole cycle, if we can just remove all the static that occurred here, what was the main takeaway? What was the main lesson? What was the point of growth and evolution? What was the catalyst? How was the energy working, and what was I supposed to learn from that? And collecting that, and then having the puzzle complete itself, having the puzzle finally come together. And there's still always learning and evolution and growth and different ways that I'm exploring my magic that are, you know, we won't get into that on here. That's for the inner circle ladies, where we dive really deep into the more esoteric occult wisdom and knowledge. But there's so much more. There's so much more to even explore. I mean, oh yeah, you guys have so much magic and potential that is available to you. And part of me just wants to take the, I don't even like to use the word airy fairy because I feel like it all serves at a certain point in our journey. But the undefined manifestation that we have been taught, the really elusive ways of creating that we have been taught, and to make those real and to make those tangible and to make those solid so that you know exactly how to use those and how to work with the energy so that you know how the energy is behaving and what the energy needs from you as a participant in that creation process to bring your idea all the way into form, to bring your desire all the way into form in your life. And right now, I just am obsessed with money. And I think that that's always been there for me, and that's been there for me for a long time, is money consciousness. Actually, when I first started my business, that's what I was working with people on. And I served hundreds of clients in my first year, and that was something I was really gifted at. And then I went into a different direction, and now I'm heading back in that direction because that's what I feel the most passionate about, helping people to create. That was a huge piece in me attaining my own personal freedom and liberation, and that. So that's why that feels so valuable to me, because that's, man, it's such a key into self-love, into freedom, helping people to create financial freedom and stability in their lives, and how that creates this beautiful, safe space for them to really flourish and grow and thrive and anchor in more and more and more of that source energy and that abundance. But so that's what I work on with people, and abundance acceleration at that. I'm not on the 5-year plan. I'm not on the 1-year plan. I'm not on the 6-month plan. I'm on the how can we create instant shifts in your reality. And I've really had to learn how to do that for myself in really dire situations in my life where I had to figure it out. And so now I know how to do that and how to reach directly into the subconscious mind to create those instant shifts and transformations, and to call in big manifestations. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm going to get, abundance acceleration. I'm all about an activating remembrance of self-knowing and self-love and empowerment. Mm-hmm. And dear God, I just, right now it's so funny because when I'm tuning into you, I just see like shooting stars everywhere, like literally, like the shooting star that has the shooting stars coming off of it. Like you just really, because everything here is a manifestation of the celestial energy. So it's pulling that, and I think that's why we're such a beautiful pair. And I'm so thankful that we get to share in this experience with one another too, because I can get in that really practical, earthy, grounded, real, tangible, solid, result-oriented space, and you just channel through that photonic, sonic, galactic light that is the essence of all that is physical and tangible here on the earth plane. And so having that combination is just, hold on to your pants, ladies and gentlemen.
So powerful. And I'm just thinking about the balancing act that is us working together, because it's true. You're so much more in that grounded, earthy, elemental energy in the way that you work with energy and power. And I'm so much more galactic, supernatural, all the way out here in the stars, literally. So we blend that. And then at the same time, I find it funny because the way that we talk sometimes, you'll speak so much more etherically and just like, and I'll just bring it back down and I'll just be super blunt and super human.
That's so funny. That's, yep.
We cover all of the grounds, ladies. All of the grounds.
Yeah, we do too. And I think that sometime here within the next week or so, if we feel called, when we feel called to do an actual activation so that people can feel the power of the calibration that's going to happen for them in that experience.
Today. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's interesting because I know that, well, I mean, I do, depending on the person, do really soft, open, gentle, loving activations. But a lot of the time I'm commanding the energy body, commanding the field. So they're pretty palpable.
Yeah, I don't do what comes through is not, for me, it's not every so often, if it needs to be that soft and gentle. It'll start out that way just to clear the energy, then we get into the real power.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly it too. It's just like to get that tension and that resistance out and to relax the field. Yes. I love you. And then it's just fire away. Yeah, because that's really what's necessary. And I know that's what we both had to do for ourselves as well. And man, I've been doing this since I was so young, and I didn't even really realize that it's quite what I was doing. I just knew I was getting results. And so I kept doing it. But really, to get into your subconscious mind, you have to convince it. And the way that you convince it is by programming it with conviction. So speaking to yourself with power and conviction about who and what you are and what you want to create. And then we dive into vision, because your vision is one of the most powerful tools that you have to create with. And this goes far beyond a 10-minute visualization. We're going to teach you how to pull the future vision all the way into the now so that you can quantum jump, so that you can literally pull in alternate timelines into your present moment experience and see those instant shifts take place in your reality. Man, I've had stuff land in my reality. I've had my clients 4x their income by using the power of vision and conviction and focus and by shifting their energy. It's so beautiful. And then taking action in the direction of their inspiration. So, there's so many elements that we're going to pull together in the inner circle, and it's fun, and it's fierce, and it's powerful, and it's exhilarating. And it's really deeply empowering. The whole key to this is to guide you back into your truth and your inner knowing and your power as a creator, so that you don't ever give away your power ever again, so that no matter where you are in your life, what you're going through, your sense of self-love, self-worth, confidence, stability, magic is always sourced from within your own being and is never contingent upon anything that is going on in your external world. That you know that you are the magic, and exactly how to tap into that, and exactly how to create synchronicities, miracles, physical manifestations, so that you can enjoy your life.
I mean, that's what we're here to do at the end of the day. No ifs, ands, buts, no impediments, no blockages, just enjoy and shift and play. And that's what I love about teaching new ways to create new gifts, new powers, new potentials, new ways to play with energy. Because one thing for me was, okay, awesome. I can manifest 6 figures like this using my energy this way. However, I would get bored. I'd get bored with the way I created and manifested. And so that's what I love about bringing in these new powers of potential to create with. I mean, I want you all to there's not just one way. So if things have worked for you this way, great. But let's make things work for you well beyond that by just shifting here and there, just critiquing a little, by trying something new, by bringing this energy in instead. And that's really where your power comes in, is when you realize I have the power to decide how I even create, that it's not that I need to learn this one way that's been taught for thousands and thousands of years, or this person does it, or this has always worked for me. No, there's so many different other ways. And that's where things really started shifting for me, was when I stepped out of just having to create in one particular type of capacity. And even because I know a lot of the women we're calling in and who are in the inner circle right now are, they're intuitive, they're spiritual, they're enlightened, they've got gifts to work with. But even with that comes a sense of disempowerment sometimes because we don't know how to ground it into the physical. And that's what a lot of this work is all about, is grounding that in, making actual clear-cut physical shifts in your reality, money in the bank, relationship shifting, stuff materializing out of thin air, all of that good stuff, with utilizing your full power over energy. It's fun, it's fast, and it's it may sound complicated right now, but it's easy.
Yeah, it's really easy. There's no rules.
Yeah.
There's no rules, and then it's just allowing those calibrations to happen so that people can fully realize and accept that there are no rules. So at the end of the day, and this is just a fun little tool for you all to start playing with and creating with now, if you want something to happen in your reality, all that you need to do is ask for what you want. Command what you want. Yeah, and then we can get into, like we were talking about the other day, making things mean what you want them to mean. Yeah, giving things, because at the core of cells and particles is empty space, nothingness, meaninglessness, no story. So you get to decide what that story is, and and what you want certain things to mean in your experience and in your reality. And once you allow yourself to release yourself from all of the ways that you won't allow yourself to fully inhabit yourself and your power as the I am that I am that I am, you'll see that creation is just the result of you being the creator. What more authority is there than that? Stating, this is what I want to create, and then allowing that thing to show up for you. Yeah, so so much fun. Ask, receive, ask, receive. Oh man. Yeah. And then there's all these other different things in between, like you're talking about now, just playing with the energy and seeing. What I've been fascinated with lately is quantity. Quantity, a new kind of sovereignty that I'm playing with, a new kind of influence that I'm playing with that goes beyond what I have yet to see or hear anywhere else. And I think that's another gift of the inner circle, is that we're tapping into realities and dimensions that have not yet been explored, but by very few. Tapping into the dimensions beyond the mirror dimension, the holographic universe, tapping into the dimensions beyond that. It's a powerful, powerful place to play in. Because there are no rules. I mean, anything goes in those spaces and places. We even started tapping into that a little bit recently too. Not too much, but the dimensions beyond the mirror dimensions beyond the, yeah. Yeah, that's really, really, really raw energy. When I started calibrating to those awarenesses, it literally, and I'm just going to share my personal experience, but it literally made me nauseous because it was so powerful. And it was such a big energy, and it just absolutely obliterated everything that I thought that I knew or believed to be true, or even any foundational thing that I had set my spirituality upon, any foundation of that. When we talked about beyond God, what is beyond God, and starting to venture into that territory and seeing what energies are there and available for us to create without there. So those are some of the fun things that we get into. The creation itself is very, very, very simple. There's all these other different things that we can play with and explore and have fun with. And I think one of the greatest gifts, even just for me being in this circle with these amazing women, is getting to go to these places together and to have our collective awareness in one space, and to really channel through one another, to amplify one another, to pull through more information, more awareness, and to ground that into together, and to affirm one another too, and to really see how you've got a piece to that awareness, I've got a piece to that awareness, Rachel has a piece to that awareness, everybody has a piece to that awareness, and then there's profound realizations that occur in these containers, and new places of discovery and exploration and creation. It really is the cutting edge of creation. These are places that we haven't been yet as a collective, as a humanity, as a species on our planet. And it's all starting to filter in and be available to us now. And it's just we're so ready to go beyond just the same spirituality that we've always known, the same manifestation that we've always known, the same creation that we've always known. We're ready for so much more. And then we start getting into like the technological translations and all of that in the code, but we don't have to go into all of that right in this moment, because we'll be here for the next hour.
No, but I mean, on that same note, what's coming through too is I can guarantee for you watching right now, if you have plateaued in your experience or your capacity to create, or things just aren't working in the same way anymore, it is, I would tune into the unconscious, and I would venture to say that it is that shadowy side of you wanting to play in these energies that we're speaking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're pulling through power too. So at a certain point, and this is really the fascinating thing too, because we've cycled through the different layers of creation, and I'm very attuned to patterning, and I can see like the cycles of evolution that take place. So when somebody's in a certain creation cycle, I can see where they are creating from, because it's different for each of us in different cycles. Like the creation is truly different and unique to all of us. Flat out, mostly all the time. But you can see in somebody's energy what cycle they have been creating from, and how they can't get results creating in that way anymore. Their energy needs to expand to that next level of creation. And so it's kind of like atoms behave differently at the quantum level than they do at the galactic level. It's the same way with creation for us and manifestation. At one level of expanded awareness, we create differently than we do in the next level of expanded awareness, and so on and so forth. So we're expanding into all these new ways to create. And in the gift of going into those shadowy extraterrestrial places is that you'll start to get really tapped into your raw power, your fearlessness, and that will be required of you to create at a certain level. I mean, that's how these other species have such advanced technologies, because they let themselves go there, and they don't, I suppose they don't have the same emotional, there's still that experience of sentience and connection, but it's not the way that we humans, we drain so much of our power through to suffering, and into the emotions. So it becomes a different kind of emotional experience too, which is really beautiful. It actually becomes true, authentic, heart-centered connection, but it's but you're not as attached to things. You simply are experiencing the beauty of your life, of your connections, of all of this. It's just a whole different experience on so many different levels. Yeah. But yeah, your power will be required. And that's why there's shadow integration occurring worldwide currently, which is the greatest gift of all of these things that are occurring right now. The planet, the earth, people who are invoking this, it is for the purpose of shadow integration. That's why much of this is occurring right now. We need to access that power, because on a bigger level, this is really about people learning how to tap into clean energy, free energy, so that we can then outwardly manifest that into a sustainable society. But we have to tap into that as people first. It's not that people are smart, people are intelligent, people have awareness and knowledge and all of this. It's just the energy to put it into action. It's the energy to follow through. It's the power to actually get out and create what it is that they desire. And so that's what a lot of this is trying to help us tap into that raw power source. And that happens largely through shadow integration. There's so much power in your shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Very cool. How are you feeling? Is it that time?
Yeah, it's about that time. Yeah. I mean, I could go on for 5 hours, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, I love you. We love you guys so much. We're going to pop the links for the inner circle in the comment section. We are starting on November the 1st. We cannot wait to see you guys in there. We're going to be running the circle every 3 months as well. Super consistent. It's powerful. It's accelerated expansion. So we're taking you through the essentials here to tap into your creator source energy and start creating what it is that you want in your life. The activations, the calibrations, all of it's going to be recorded and provided. You're going to have a sacred sisterhood of powerful witchy priestesses to connect into and to bounce your awarenesses off of. And that group will stay open for all future groups moving forward. So even after the circle is complete with Jenn, I, and the other women, you'll still have access to the group and the recordings and the activations and all of this. So yeah, reach out to each of us privately, connect in through the links that we provide. If you have any questions, please do let us know. And we will see you guys back here on Monday. We love you. Thank you.
love you.
Bye.
Bye.